Palais, my SAT. Look, some good news. Hold on. Palais? Yes, that's right. Boy, SAT has something called, hold on, Palais. Look, talk, SAT is having a special for this independent season, and you need to get connected to enjoy the benefits. It's called Palais. Once you set up and connected with SAT, you can talk to your mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, stepmother, stepbrother, stepsister, the whole step. Palais is so sweet with your connection to SAT Telecoms, and especially when you get your internet connection, no hidden fees, no hidden charges. You get free SAT to SAT telephone connection. You also get free installation, and you get no charges on your talk time. And you get your telephone for free. Oh, baka pay boy, you know ye. Palais, baka do. So you have at home your TV, SAT TV. You have your internet, SAT internet. And now, phone. Look at Palais. All your talk is sweet. Hello. Take advantage of one of SAT's 5 internet packages in our Palais specials. You can get the Breezy, the Warm-Up, the Maverick, the Jetstream, and the Warp Drive. Don't forget the Palais. These packages starting at $28.75. Palais. Yeah, don't forget from SAT. This independent season, don't forget it's happening at SAT. Palais. Festival, c'est manger. Tout le monde, manger. Mais SAT, c'est Palais. Yep, Palais. Yes.
Good evening, I am Nisha Charles.
And I am Desmond Joseph.
And we are your presenters for today. Thank you for joining us for SAT TV News. Among the major developments, UE hosts controversial debates on the death penalty.
Turks and Caicos election results confirmed.
Davis betrays CIA scandal engulfs U.S. General John Allen.
And in sports, Dominica Amateur Basketball Association officially closes basketball season.
Details of these and other stories after the break.
Thank you for staying with us. Now for the details of the news. Sunday, November 18th, 2012 will mark the first year that the Methodist Church in the Caribbean and America will recognize Youth and Young Adults Lord's Day.
This is following a decision taken by the Methodist Connectional Conference, which of course spearheads or governs the Methodist Church in the Caribbean and the Americas. The MCCA is observing this Lord's Day throughout each of its connectional districts. That includes the Leeward Island District, the Jamaica District, and the many other districts that make up the MCCA.
Dominica will observe this celebration with some of the harvest activities that is taking place around the same time. The recognition of harvest within the Methodist Church is where the people give thanks to the Almighty for all the produce as well as to ask Him for blessings.
So that they can produce throughout the year, the month, and throughout different seasons. And so it is just that opportunity where farmers and different individuals who basically take part in different ways of earning income, they can come forward to receive more blessings from God by bringing a portion of what they have to the altar of grace for blessing by, of course, the Methodist minister or the person who is sitting over the service at that given point.
This Sunday, people will gather at their various congregations and make their way through different districts throughout Dominica.
Comprises of the Ebenezer, Mount Wallace, Clifton, Calabishi, Marigat, which is Zion, and the Bethesda congregations, which is 6 congregations. It's throughout these 6 congregations a very special message from the President of the Methodist Youth and Young Adults Commission, Brother Quincy Hines, will be read. And also the youth of the circuit in all of these congregations will take part in the worship in their respective churches.
Methodist churches in the Portsmouth district will be observing harvest only. However, the preaching will be focused on harvest and in relation to the first MCCA Methodist Church in the Caribbean and the Americas.
Of course, our young people being at the helm of a lot of our developmental efforts now, with, of course, the establishment of several youth commissions across the district, of course, the development of several youth programs within our district as well. And so we invite all to be a part of this grand celebration of activity on Sunday, November 18th, throughout the entire island. I listed the 6 churches, of course, that we have currently on the island. But of course, the 2 main special celebrations will occur at the Ebenezer congregation in Westley, which will be Harvest, and also Youth and Young Adults Lord's Day, and the Mount Wallace congregation, which will be the Portsmouth congregation.
Mr. Alexander says they will continue to develop themselves as a church and a people, and he believes that this will be a rather interesting event for the youth.
In an effort to form their own business, the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, the DAPD, is hosting a management training and planning seminar this week. The seminar seeks to enable participants to understand, manage and operate a viable business enterprise and to build the managerial capacities and business skills of persons with disabilities. Executive Director of the DAPD, Ms. Natalie Murphy, says this comes at an opportune time for the organization because they are desperately in need of a way to generate much needed income.
Getting them to assist or to enable them to understand the issues relating to work and employment and what their roles and responsibilities are in terms of being employees or even employers out there. So it's a package that we are putting together so that at the end of the exercise we will be able to come up with a project idea.
The seminar runs from November 13th to the 15th and will bring persons like Dr. Valda Henry and Mrs. Sharon Vidal Francis to speak to the participants. Ms. Murphy says Dr. Henry will be teaching them how to develop a business plan.
A package that we are putting together so that at the end of the exercise we will be able to come up with a project idea that we can develop and eventually establish. And hopefully then we might not have to have $1 a day in the future if we are able to have a business enterprise that is sustainable and generates income for the organization.
At the seminar, they will also be discussing activities to observe the DAPD's 30th anniversary. She hopes that people from outside will also see the need to help them with their goals of having their own business and assist in any way they can.
So by the time January hits, we'll be able to have our program all set out and our budget, estimated budget, developed and have an official launching in January, and if possible have activities, if not monthly, but probably every other month.
The Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities is reporting that the level of contribution towards their $1 Day has been dismal. Their 7th annual $1 Day was launched on October 26 under the theme DAPD Sustainability with support from social partners. Executive Director of the DAPD, Ms. Natalie Murphy, says with just a month and a half left, contributions are slow in coming.
These funds we were seeking to raise so as to continue organizing activities and projects and programs for persons with disabilities. But as it stands now, we have just passed our 20% mark, which is a little more than $10,000, and still expecting patrons, supporters, well-wishers out there to contribute to this venture.
She is very optimistic that Dominicans or persons abroad can contribute to the worthy cause despite the global economic downturn. She says Dominica has helped them so far and she is certain they will continue to do so.
Somewhere, somehow, you will be able to squeeze something out and make a contribution towards this $1 Day. When I say you, I'm speaking about to the viewers and listeners of SAT Television. In spite of the fact that we are not sure of raising the full amount, we are nonetheless going ahead with our activities that we had proposed for the year.
She thanked those who have contributed to the project to date, but she is very disappointed with the response. Ms. Murphy says without the public's contribution, they cannot fulfill their goal of becoming a self-sustaining organization. Their management training seminar this week is one of the ways they're trying to find ideas to become self-sufficient.
And in more local news, Feast of Christ the King is near. This year, the Western Vicariate Council will celebrate Feast of Christ the King in Portsmouth on Sunday, November 25th. The parishes which will join the celebration are St. Paul and St. Anne's, St. Joseph, St. John and St. Louis, and St. Teresa. This merriment will be held under the theme Crowning Our King Jesus the Christ. St. Anne's and St. Paul's parish priest Father Franklin Coffey stated that when this event is celebrated on the vicariate level, more people attend.
So this year, we in the Western Vicariate, we will be celebrating it in Portsmouth. So parishioners from Canefield to St. Joseph, Collio, Salisbury, Portsmouth, and the whole Western Vicariate, we are meeting in Portsmouth. And again, the young people, the youth of the parishes, different communities are very much involved. And we are celebrating the day's activity under the theme Crowning or Hailing Our King Jesus. Okay, and they will be expressing, the crowning or the hailing of the King in song, in poem, in skits, and so on.
The public will gather in Portsmouth at 8:30 a.m. followed by a procession to Benjamin's Park. At 10 a.m. a festival of praise will take place.
Then this will be followed by a lunch break, and after this, again, later on in the afternoon from 2:15, the songs of praise and dance will continue. And then we'll have a concelebrated high mass where all the priests from this vicariate will be present at that celebration. So for us, Christ the King is very, very significant, especially at this time. We know that, family life or Christianity or the church is under attack. And it will be one way of emphasizing that, the church is much bigger than our small community, than our small parish.
He says this is an opportunity for the older people to mentor the youth. Father Coffey added that Mrs. Robinson is the best example of someone who has taken up one of the youth into her home, and he is extremely saddened about her death.
Mrs. Madeline Robinson, who lost her life in such a tragic way, And in Camp Rescue, we have been promoting mentorship, encouraging people to mentor our youth at risk. And again, we trained over 108 people who came forward, spend a day, day or two at the police headquarters. But when you come to actually take on our youth at risk, people shy away from that. And this, to my mind, is what Madeline Robinson did. She took on this young man, tried to mentor him, and then, it cost her life. And
he says it is unfortunate that our young people are involved in such activities like that, and innocent people lose their lives, such as Marilyn Robinson's. However, we cannot give up.
In an effort to influence the state's decision when voting on the topic of the death penalty at the United Nations level, former magistrate, now attorney Tiani Bihanzin, organized a debate on the topic which took place on Monday, November 12th. Attorney Bihanzin says much of the Eastern Caribbean has the death penalty on their books, but is not passing such sentences because the bar to carry out such sentence is very high. He added that a lot of states in the Eastern Caribbean are looking to change the law to make it easier to execute, so a debate on this topic is essential. The controversial debate, which took place at the University of the West Indies Open Campus, saw students from the Dominica State College and students of UWI battling it out to prove their side of the topic. The DAC opposed the topic and was represented by Jose Thomas, Journal John Baptist, and Donnelly Daly, while UWI was in favor of the topic with Dominic Newton, Kalisha John Baptist, and Abigail Dura presenting their side. UWI student Ms. Abigail Dura, in her presentation, stated that a report of the Caribbean Human Development done in 2012, which was prepared by the United Nations Development Program, revealed that with the exception of Barbados and Suriname, homicide rates including gang-related killings have increased substantially in the last 12 years across the Caribbean. She stated such crimes has been dropping over or stabilized in other parts of the world.
We, the UWI Open Campus team, strongly support the motion of hanging as a form of capital punishment in the Caribbean. We believe that the enforcement of this penalty, among other things in our courts of law, will 1. Act as a crime deterrent for would-be criminals, 2. Would provide closure for families of murder victims, and 3. Is a just means to curb the alarming trend of crime in the Caribbean. In the first place, Mr. Moderator, enforcing the death penalty will deter murderers. According to Ernest van der Haag, PhD, late professor of jurisprudence at Fordham University, people fear nothing more than death. Therefore, nothing will deter a criminal more than the fear of the death penalty.
Ms. Dura argued that presently in society there are not adequate methods to deter crime, which is the case. The death penalty should be used as a means of doing so, as criminals prefer a jail term rather than a death sentence. She stated there is clear positive societal spin-offs from implementing the death penalty, as in Trinidad and Tobago during the period of 1999 Glen Aspie and 1994 Dole Shadi, executions fell by 24%. This percentage then exponentially rose when explicit threats of the executions being implemented subsided.
The death penalty not only acts as a deterrent for criminals, but it also allows closure for families. Let us consider this issue not from a humanitarian perspective, but from a utilitarian perspective. The Cavendish-Lockhart series defines ideal rule utilitarianism as where an act or measure is regarded as being right if it is permitted by a rule, which if generally followed will on the whole have as good or better consequences than any other rule governing the same acts. In this case, it will mean that the death penalty, a law written in our own constitution, would have as good or better consequences than a life imprisonment sentence. Members of the audience, can you imagine sitting at a restaurant or any public place in fact and see the convicted murderer of your child, your mother, your father, or your lover walk into the room smiling, laughing, and enjoying their life while your loved one lies 6 feet under, violently taken in their prime? How would you feel?
In further arguing the UB side for the death penalty, Ms. Duran says there are brutal murderers living and eating comfortably in prison on the taxpayers' money, and some even learn a skill or two while their victims are hurting with no closure, which cannot continue. Ms. Jose Thomas of the Dominica State College, who opposes the death penalty, says capital punishment does not serve as a deterrent, and supporting such punishment would diminish the value of human life. She also pointed out the high possibility where an innocent person can be executed, and the glitches in the composition of capital punishment would not fit within the society of the Eastern Caribbean.
According to Amnesty International, a 2006 survey, and I quote, "Murder rates in the United States that apply the death penalty are higher than the rates of other states," end of quote. For example, states that support the death penalty, such as Texas and Florida, have a higher murder rate than states that do not. A survey of experts from the American Society of Criminology, dated April 2011, showed that the overwhelming majority did not believe that the death penalty is a proven deterrent to homicide. Over 80% believe that the existing research fails to support a deterrence justification for the death penalty.
She says Trinidad and Tobago, who opposes the death penalty, is a strong example of the failure of the punishment. Ms. Thomas argued that the country in February of 2011 had 42 prisoners on death row who are awaiting execution, while between 2002 and 2010, the murder rate was at an average of 460 murders per year. In her mind, this clearly shows that capital punishment does not deter crime, as some may think.
According to the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, dated 1948, Article 3 states, and I quote, "Everyone has the fundamental right to life," end of quote. Capital punishment violates the right to life and the right to be free from cruel, inhumane, and degrading punishment. Capital punishment enforces kill one to save one. This dangerous and highly controversial act will lend itself to social turmoil. Letting the people know that their life rank is a judgment of the state will limit, and in a very possible and severe case, remove all forms of trust between the people and its government.
Ms. Thomas also said if someone is wrongfully convicted of a crime and sentenced to death, one cannot bring back the dead, so it is best that the death penalty is not used. At the end of such strong arguments by both sides, there could only be one winner, which emerged as the University of the West Indies. The DSC racked up 556 points for their presentations, while UB totaled 587 points. The outstanding speaker of the debate went to Ms. Jose Thomas of the DSC. The DSC received $500 for participation in the debate, while the winners, UB, received $750.
And in more local news, the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development on Friday bid farewell to retired educator Hartley Adams. Mr. Adams retired from the public service on November 12 after 38 years spent as a teacher. He was also a principal, policy and planning officer and education officer for the Southern, Western and Northern districts. At that time of his retirement, Mr. Adams was the education officer for the North, and his colleagues remember him as a straight shooter who was unconventional but very passionate about education. At a ceremony attended by staff of the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Assistant Chief Education Officer Dr. Jeffrey Blair said, Adam leaves with a wealth of experience and knowledge in working with educators, teachers and principals. Mr. Blair thanked the retired educator for his long service and for working with schools over so many years. Mr. Adams said he had a wonderful life in education and is available to continue serving the Ministry of Education if called upon to share his expertise. The Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development extends congratulations to Mr. Adams on his retirement.
And in more news, 5 individuals received the Claire d'Or Award for their musical renditions, which took place on Thursday, November 8th, for the first ever Claire d'Or competition in Dominica. They are Jared Jean-Jacques, trumpet, Stacy Jean-Jacques, saxophone, Marvin Marie, clarinet and saxophone, Tiffany Main, contemporary voice, and Daria Sorrendo, lyrical voice. 6 silver and 5 bronze medals were awarded and certificates of distinction and merit were presented to all 23 participants. The Chief Judge, Monsieur Ganesier, was pleasantly surprised at the high level and quality of the participants. The award ceremony included performances from the Claire d'Or and silver medalists, which concluded with a piano recital from the virtuoso Monsieur Gerald Ganesier. His program contained well-known compositions like Bach, Jésus, Joy of Man's Desiring, and Liszt's Liebestrobe, and finished with Manuel de Falla, showy ritual fire dance. His spirited and energetic performance was very much appreciated by the audience at the UWI Open Campus Auditorium. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.
It's only when we unite as one, then a lot more thing can be done. Stop this useless fight down, killing out your own brother man. Time we rise and all realize we have an enemy in disguise, standing right in the mix of you. Got to know who is who. This is Derek Rapiters and you're watching SAT TV. That's what I have, SAT TV. SAT TV, that's the way to go. Rah! To the world. Ooh diddy, ooh diddy, ooh diddy.